What if I told you that the heaviest burdens you carry from your family are not accidents? What if the arguments, the patterns, the heartbreaks that seem to echo through generations were never random chaos, but something you agreed to long before you even arrived here? Most people hear that and think, no way, I would never choose this. And yet what if you did? Not as punishment, not as bad luck, but as a carefully chosen agreement, a soul contract made in the quiet before birth, when you still remembered who you truly were. Imagine that your struggles as part of a script you helped write, one that your soul believed would be the exact experience needed to evolve. When you start to see it this way, the world changes. That fight you had with your mother isn't just about the words spoken, it's a thread in a much older tapestry. Your father's silence, your grandmother's fears, the way you always end up in the same kind of relationship. These aren't random stains on the fabric of your life. They're recurring symbols, like the chorus in a song your family has been singing for centuries. Some verses are beautiful, others are heartbreaking, but all of them are invitations and opportunity for you to either sing them differently or finally bring the song to an end. Now, I know, this isn't how we've been taught to think about pain. Most of us are taught to survive it, avoid it, blame someone for it. But if it's true, if there's a soul-level agreement here, then the real power isn't in running from the pattern. It's in facing it with curiosity. Because a contract is not a curse. A curse leaves you powerless. A contract, that's something you can renegotiate. That's something you can fulfill differently than it's been done before. And that means you have more power than you think. Think about your own family for a moment. Not the highlight reel. The real story. What's the one theme that keeps showing up, no matter how much people try to avoid it? Maybe it's abandonment. Maybe it's financial struggle. Maybe it's addiction, or control, or silence. Every family has a few of these. They're like inherited furniture passed down whether you asked for it or not. And for some reason, you find yourself living with it, arranging your life around it, even when you swore you'd never be like them. That's the strange thing about family karma. It doesn't care how much you resist. Resistance alone doesn't break it. Awareness does. Carl Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And isn't that exactly what happens here? Family karma is the unconscious script. It plays in the background, and we act it out, thinking we're making free choices until the moment we see the pattern clearly. That's the awakening moment. The moment the lights go on and you realize, this isn't just my life. This is my lineage speaking through me. And here's the wild part: when you heal something in yourself, you don't just heal it for you. You heal it forward and backward in time. Imagine your great-grandmother finally breathing a sigh of relief because the fear she carried all her life has finally found rest through you. Imagine your future children living without the weight you just put down. That's the scale of the work you're doing when you start to look at family karma not as a prison, but as a sacred assignment. Before we go further, let's be honest, this perspective isn't comfortable. It asks you to stop seeing yourself as a victim of your family and start seeing yourself as a co-creator. It means accepting that, on some soul level, you chose to walk into this exact situation, and that can bring up resistance, even anger. You might think, why would I ever choose this? And that's okay, because part of this journey is learning that choice isn't always about comfort. At the soul level, choice is about growth. And growth almost always asks us to step into the very places we'd rather avoid. So if you're here listening to this, it probably means you're already feeling the pull to see your family story in a new way. You're ready to stop asking, why me? And start asking, what now? Because that's the only question that truly changes the trajectory. Why me? Keeps you trapped in the past. What now? Opens the door to transformation. Transformation starts with one thing: recognition. You have to be willing to say, yes, this pattern exists. Yes, I see it. And yes, I've been part of it. That last part is the hardest, because it means owning your role in the story, even if you didn't write the first chapter. But when you do, something shifts. You stop feeling like the end of the story is already written, and you start to realize you're holding the pen. So, what exactly is a soul contract? Imagine this. Before you were born, there was a kind of meeting, a quiet gathering in a place beyond time, where you, in your fullest, wisest self, sat down with other souls you've known for lifetimes. Together, you mapped out an experience, not a step-by-step schedule, but an outline of lessons, themes, and key encounters that would shape your journey. And in that outline, certain souls agreed to play specific roles for you, and you for them. Some roles are gentle, loving, and supportive. Others are challenging, even painful. But each one, in its own way, was chosen with a purpose. Here's the part that shocks most people. The ones who hurt you the most, the ones whose presence feels like a storm in your life, might be the ones who love your soul the deepest. Not in a romantic or sentimental way, but in a way that says, I love you enough to play the role that will push you to grow. It's not about condoning their behavior in the human sense. It's about understanding that at the soul level, these dynamics aren't about cruelty. They're about awakening. Think about the characters in your life's story. Your mother, your father, siblings, that one family member you avoid at gatherings because they always seem to know exactly where to poke. What if every single one of them is part of this ancient agreement? And what if the conflicts you face with them aren't random, but perfectly designed mirrors, reflecting back to you the exact wounds you came here to heal? That's what soul contracts do. They create opportunities for healing by making the unconscious visible. Now, let's bring it down from the clouds. How does this show up in real life? Maybe your soul contract includes a pattern of abandonment. And so, you're born into a family where one parent is physically or emotionally absent. That absence shapes you. It teaches you resilience, independence, but also fear and mistrust. Later, you find yourself drawn to relationships that echo that same absence, and every time, it hurts in the same familiar way. That's not random. That's the contract at work, showing you the wound until you finally stop trying to fill it from the outside and turn inward to heal it from the source. Another example, let's say, your contract carries the theme of control. You might grow up with parents who micromanage every aspect of your life. You spend years trying to break free, only to discover that when you finally get your independence, you start controlling yourself in ways that are just as suffocating. It's the same energy, different form. Until you see it, you can't change it. And that's exactly why the pattern repeats. It's the soul's way of saying, are you ready yet? What's beautiful and sometimes maddening about soul contracts is that they're deeply interwoven with the contracts of others. You're not just working on your own lessons, you're part of a larger web. When you start healing your piece of the contract, you shift the entire dynamic. Maybe your healing helps your siblings see things differently. Maybe it inspires your parent to soften. Or maybe it simply stops the pattern from passing to the next generation. That ripple effect is part of the magic. But here's a hard truth. Knowing about soul contracts doesn't automatically make them easier to live through. You can intellectually understand that your father's harshness was part of a pre-agreement and still feel the sting of his words in your bones. That's okay. This isn't about bypassing your emotions with spiritual ideas. It's about holding both truths at once, the human pain and the soul-level purpose. One doesn't erase the other. They coexist. When we talk about breaking family patterns, most people want quick fixes, affirmations, vision boards, maybe a retreat in Bali. But soul contracts are deeper than that. They're not broken with surface-level change. They're transformed when you meet the pattern fully, when you stop running from it, and instead, ask, what are you here to teach me? That question is the key. It shifts you from being a passive participant in your contract to an active renegotiator. And yes, you can renegotiate. People often think a soul contract is permanent, like a carved-in-stone destiny. But in truth, contracts evolve. Once you've embodied the lesson they were meant to bring, you can choose a different path. Sometimes that means the relationship changes. Sometimes it means you leave it all together. And sometimes the other person doesn't change at all, but your reaction does. And that's enough to free you. Here's the part most people overlook. You don't have to wait for the other person to agree to the change. This isn't about fixing them or making them see things your way. It's about you stepping into your own authority over your energy, your boundaries, and your narrative. Because when you do that, the old script simply can't play out the same way anymore. Now that we've explored what soul contracts are, let's get practical. How do you recognize if you're living out a family's soul contract? It's subtler than you might think, because most of the time, you've been rehearsing the same patterns since childhood and never even noticed. First, look at repetition. Are the same conflicts showing up again and again? Maybe you've had 3 relationships that ended the exact same way. Maybe you always find yourself in the same argument with a parent every holiday, no matter how much you try to avoid it. Repetition is the clearest signal that a pattern is at play. The universe is persistent. It will give you the same lesson until you get it. Second, notice emotional intensity. Soul contracts often push buttons that feel disproportionate. You might explode over something small or feel crushing guilt over something minor. These emotions are clues. They are like your internal compass pointing to the lesson that your soul wants you to understand. Third, look at inherited traits. Sometimes the contract is almost invisible, embedded in family tendencies. Do you see yourself struggling with the same fears as your parents, the same self-sabotage patterns, the same avoidance of intimacy? These inherited energies are part of the blueprint your soul chose to navigate. Recognizing them is the first step toward conscious change. Let me tell you about Jasmine. Her mother was critical and perfectionistic. Her father avoided confrontation at all costs. Jasmine found herself alternating between being her mother's harsh inner voice and her father's silent observer. She thought, "Why am I like this? Am I broken?" And yet, the moment she saw these traits as part of a soul contractor structure designed to teach her self-compassion and assertiveness, everything shifted. Suddenly, the behaviors weren't just flaws. They were opportunities to consciously practice new responses. Another tip: notice physical manifestations. Family soul contracts sometimes appear in your body as tension, anxiety, or even recurring health issues. The body remembers what the mind may not consciously know. Stress in certain situations, stomach aches before family gatherings, or a racing heart when you anticipate conflict. These are your body's way of signaling that an old pattern is being triggered. And finally, pay attention to your dreams and intuitive nudges. Dreams often carry symbolic representations of soul contracts, showing you recurring scenarios or unresolved emotional loops. Intuition can give you a quiet but firm sense that certain relationships or situations are teaching you more than they seem. Here's the key: recognition alone doesn't dissolve the contract, but it changes your relationship with it. Imagine walking into a storm, fully aware that it is coming, instead of being blindsided. You can choose how to navigate it. You can shelter yourself. You can even dance in the rain. That's the difference awareness makes. To make this concrete, I want you to try an internal exercise. Take a moment and silently ask yourself, what is the pattern I keep repeating in my family? Don't judge the answer. Don't analyze it. Just observe. Maybe it's conflict. Maybe it's avoidance. Maybe it's overgiving. Just notice it. Then ask, what is this pattern asking me to learn? Let your intuition answer. This practice, repeated over time, helps you start seeing your family dynamics as mirrors rather than prisons. And now, let's go a step further. Imagine your family's story as a river. The currents have been flowing the same way for generations. Your soul contract is like a stone in the riverbed, shaping how the water moves. You cannot stop the river entirely, but you can start rearranging the stones, creating new channels, and redirecting the flow. Over time, the current changes. It doesn't erase the past, it reshapes the future. Finally, understand this: noticing the pattern is not about blame, it's about responsibility. Responsibility at the soul level. You may not have created the pattern, but you are the one who can transform it. And in transforming it, you release not only yourself, but also the generations that follow. That's the hidden power of recognizing your family's soul contract. Liberation, not only for you, but for the lineage you belong to. Now that you've begun to recognize the patterns, it's time to take the next step: transformation. Awareness alone is powerful, but transformation requires action. And the most accessible, profound tool for this is journaling. Yes, it may sound simple, but writing down your experiences, emotions, and reflections activates a part of your brain and your soul that thinking alone cannot reach. Here's a step-by-step approach that I want you to try for the next 7 days. Ideally, in the quiet of the morning or before bed. Step 1. Write down 3 family dynamics that keep repeating in your life, the ones that trigger you, frustrate you, or leave you feeling stuck. Don't censor yourself. Let the emotions spill onto the page. Be honest. Even a single sentence counts. Step 2. For each scenario, ask the question, what is this pattern trying to teach me? Pause and let the answer arise naturally. Don't force it. It might be something small, like patience, or something profound, like forgiveness. You may feel resistance or doubt, and that's normal. That resistance is another layer of the lesson. Step 3. Rewrite the ending. Imagine the same situation happening again, but this time, you respond differently. You set boundaries where you previously remained silent. You express your needs where you once suppressed them. You show up with compassion where you once reacted with anger. The key is to practice conscious choice, creating a mental rehearsal of the life you wish to live. Let me share a real example. There was a woman named Lena. Lena's family had a long history of unspoken criticism. Every holiday dinner, there was a silent judgment in the room that left her anxious and insecure. She started this journaling practice, first writing down the dynamics, then exploring the lessons they were offering. She realized that the pattern was teaching her self-acceptance, how to validate herself without seeking approval from others. Finally, she rewrote her mental responses. During the next family gathering, she allowed herself to remain calm, to smile inwardly at the criticism, and to leave the table without guilt. Over time, her anxiety decreased, and she felt lighter in her presence with her family. Another example is Marcus. He grew up in a family where financial struggle created tension and secrecy. He found himself repeating the same cycles, overworking, overspending, and constantly worrying about money. Through journaling, he mapped the repeating pattern and asked, "What is this pattern teaching me?" The answer was clear: discernment and the ability to create stability without fear. By imagining new responses, saving wisely, setting limits, and communicating openly with his partner, he began changing not only his habits but also the energy around money in his family. This practice does more than give you insight. It begins to shift the energy of your soul contract itself. When you consistently rehearse new responses, you signal to the universe and to your subconscious that you are ready to fulfill this contract in a new way. You are no longer trapped in unconscious repetition. You are becoming the conscious author of your family story. Now, let's deepen the practice further. Take a few minutes each day to imagine the generations connected to you. Picture your parents, grandparents, and even ancestors beyond them. Visualize the patterns flowing through them: repetition, misunderstanding, fear, and see your own conscious choices creating ripples that gradually shift the river of family karma. This visualization bridges time. It reminds you that transformation is not just for you, it is for your lineage. Every conscious choice creates freedom not just in your lifetime, but in the lives yet to come. Finally, integrate gratitude into this exercise. This may feel counterintuitive when you're confronting pain, but gratitude changes perspective. Write down what each family member has taught you, even through difficulty. Recognize that their presence, their challenges, and even their mistakes were part of the sacred contract that allowed your soul to grow. Gratitude does not excuse harmful behavior. It transforms your perception, giving you clarity and compassion without compromise. Through journaling, reflection, and visualization, the heavy energy of inherited family patterns begins to lighten. You start to see the dynamics, not as chains, but as lessons written into the fabric of your life. And as you practice this consistently, you'll notice subtle shifts: more patience, less reactivity, a deeper sense of agency, and a growing freedom to choose your own story. This is the essence of rewriting a soul contract. It's not a magical erasure of pain. It's the conscious, deliberate reshaping of how you interact with it. Each insight, each reframed response, each moment of self-compassion. These are the brushstrokes that gradually paint a new narrative across the canvas of your family life. As we begin to integrate these practices, something remarkable happens. You start noticing that the energy you bring into your family dynamics changes everything. You are no longer a passive participant. You are an active creator. The same arguments, the same frustrations, the same heartbreaks may still appear. Now, you meet them differently. Your responses are conscious, your presence is steady, and your soul begins to breathe. Let me tell you about Naomi. For years, she felt trapped in her family's cycle of criticism and disappointment. She would leave gatherings feeling small and unseen. But when she began journaling and consciously imagining new responses, something shifted. She realized she didn't have to fight her family's energy to transform it. She simply had to meet it with awareness, compassion, and boundaries. Over time, she noticed the smallest changes. Conversations that used to erupt in anger now ended in calm discussions. She felt lighter, she felt empowered, and perhaps most importantly, she felt free. Family soul contracts are not about punishments. They are invitations. They are lessons disguised as conflicts, growth disguised as challenges. And here's the truth: When you embrace this perspective, you see that your suffering has purpose. Every wound, every recurring argument, every moment of pain is a guidepost pointing toward your evolution. You begin to understand that you were never merely a victim of circumstance. You are a co-creator in the grand tapestry of your lineage. But transformation is not instantaneous. It takes patience, commitment, and self-compassion. You will make mistakes. You will revert to old patterns. And that's okay. Each time you notice, each time you choose differently, you are rewriting your soul contract one choice at a time. Think of it like sculpting. Each deliberate stroke brings the statue closer to its intended form. Each act of awareness reshapes the energy of your family karma. And remember, the changes you make ripple beyond your own life. Imagine your children, grandchildren, or even distant relatives living without the weight of patterns you just released. Imagine the lineage breathing easier, unburdened by repetition. Your work today can free countless souls tomorrow. This is the sacred responsibility and gift of recognizing and transforming your family's soul contract. Now, let's take a deep breath together. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the river of your family life. See the currents flowing, strong and persistent. Notice the stones, the challenges, the patterns, the lessons. Imagine yourself stepping into the water fully aware. You begin rearranging the stones, opening new channels, redirecting the flow. The water does not stop, but it moves differently. It becomes lighter, freer, more conscious. This is the power you hold. This is the transformation possible when you step into awareness and choose a new path. Finally, I want to leave you with this thought. Your family karma is not a curse. It never was. It is a soul contract designed to challenge you, teach you, and ultimately help you evolve. And now, armed with awareness, reflection, journaling, and conscious action, you have the tools to fulfill that contract in a way that honors your growth, heals your lineage, and frees your spirit. So I'll ask you again, which part of your family story are you ready to change first? Which pattern are you ready to meet with conscious choice, compassion, and courage? The pen is in your hand. The story is yours to rewrite. And every step you take toward awareness is a step toward liberation. Not just for you, but for every soul connected to your lineage. Your journey begins here, with recognition, with action, with love, and with the courage to transform what once felt like chains into the wings of your freedom.